Hello and welcome to the York Creators Podcast. My name is Ben Porter, and each week you can join me as I chat to someone from York's creative community. This week's guest is Jamie McKeller. Jamie is a filmmaker. He's a writer, director, editor, actor, and incredibly hardworking. Over the last 6 years he's created 3 award-winning web series, as well as a heap of short films. One of his recent projects, The Book Club, won Best Pilot at Raindance in 2016, and was put into production as his first feature film, Chestersberg. In this episode we chat about the focus needed to stay on track during long projects, fighting the temptations to keep starting new ones, why he loves the horror comedy genre, and his practical tips for making films on a budget. So Jamie, welcome to the podcast.
It's good to be here.
So you are currently in the final stage of your first feature film, Chestersberg.
Yes.
Which I'm really eager to hear about, but if we jump back a little bit to the beginning of your journey into film, what was it that made you think this was something you wanted to pursue?
I don't think there was like a singular moment really. I worked as an actor for the better half of 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. I started out when I was quite young actually. I think the first professional acting job I had, I was about 8 years old. From then I did all sorts of bits and pieces. I did film and TV and theatre. And I think it's more, as I got into my 20s, I just started leaning more and more behind the scenes. A little gag that I did every ITV drama you could think of in the 90s. And I died in them. Which is maybe what kind of formed the sort of stuff that I make these days. And yeah, I think it was about 2008, 2009. I was just about to move to Edinburgh, actually. Okay. And I was staying at my mum's house for a couple of weeks, just between places to live. And I watched a web series called The Guild by Felicia Day. Okay. And it was the first time I'd been exposed to that sort of format. Obviously, I grew up watching films. I was introduced to the sort of video nasty thing by my mum actually in my early teens. I remember being like 11, 12 years old watching Motel Hell, just like, what is happening? This is incredible. But it never sort of occurred to me that I could make something like that. It just, the idea of film seemed quite like a fantastical and achievable thing. And yeah, it was seeing the result that came from Felicia Day's work. Getting to see the behind the scenes of it. Have you seen The Guild at all? It's no. It's the most popular web series that was ever made. Even to now, I think it's had huge guest stars in. But it started off just her single camera in her bedroom doing a kind of vlogging thing, okay. And it was about a girl who was part of a guild with online gaming, and it was just so watchable. Tiny little nuggets, like 5-6 minute long episodes, and I just saw it and I thought, this is great. I've been doing a lot of writing from the age of like 13, 14. I started writing scripts and playing around with stuff. And suddenly this seemed like a whole new way that I could tell some stories. And I just literally put out a shout on Facebook, where most things tend to begin these days. And I said, do I know anyone that knows how to make a film, but not a film, a web series? Like I have this idea. And a friend of mine called Lloyd Ludgrove, who has, even now 10 years on, he's worked on Chestersberg. So, we must be doing something vaguely right, because he's still around. And he joined us, and then Simon Brodie does all the special effects. He joined, and that was literally it. The first shoot we did, it was just us three, cool. Out on a cycle path. I had so much paperwork. I wrote so many production documents because I was freaking out. I was thinking, I can't waste everybody's time. This is going to be, and we just went for it, and we just put it out and fell in love with it. And here we are, I'd say 9 years on. And we felt, we're ready now. Let's make a feature, and we did.
So if you were to guide someone on the process, the path that you've been on, what would you say has been the most useful thing? Is it tutorials? Is it just
the internet is great. I love the internet. Most of the work that we've made over the years has gone online for people to see. We've always sort of said doing what we have done was the learning curve. I didn't study film at university. I studied theatre. The advice I would give is just get stuck in, really. I think the best thing to do is we would always try to write something in there that would not only be fun for us to do, but would help us uncover something and learn something, discover something. So if I'd seen something in a film, I wonder how they did that. I would think, how can we apply that to something we're doing, and then just figure it out and do it. And it's been the same for everybody. For Simon, who does our effects, I would say, I want to do this. And he'd go, oh, I've kind of done something like that. And I'd say, what do you want to do? And he's like, I've always wanted to do this. And we'd be like, okay, well, let's figure out how we can do that. And then we'd have maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't, but we'd always find a way to cut it, hopefully, into an entertaining piece of work, to say the least. But yeah, it's just ask people, talk to people. Anytime you get stuck on something, the answer is out there. And be in love with it, that kind of helps as well. Like, I love the genre that I work in. Like, I go to watch any horror film that comes out, I will be there on the opening day. I can't get enough of it.
What is it about horror that interests you?
I mean, I love all film. I love all cinema. It's my happy place. I live around the corner from Everyman Cinema in York, and I spend an alarming amount of time in there. But there's something about horror, particularly horror comedy, that allows such a level of creativity. And I think when you cross over genres as well in that way, you can almost deliver a bit of a 1-2 punch with moments as well. So things like Scrubs, the old sitcom. I say the old sitcom. It's like about 5-6 years ago. They were great at like they would. Whereas things like Friends and sitcoms, they would always like give a heartfelt moment and try and spin a little laugh at the end of it. Scrubs was always really good at like picking the right tone, making you laugh, and then punching you clean in the heart. And I think horror and horror comedy does that particularly well, because it brings you to such an emotional state from the terror of it all, that when something heartbreaking does happen, you're almost kind of like a raw nerve. So, for instance, Shaun of the Dead, spoilers, when his mum gets bitten, that's, you've come out of all this terror and horror and violence, and then you just get slapped with this cold, real moment. And I don't think necessarily, not to dismiss other genres, I think that for me personally, it's certainly more of an impact coming in that frame.
Yeah, it lets you be quite creative as well, doesn't it, with all the props and the different things that you can kind of come up with.
Yeah.
What would be your top tip on making films on a budget?
Again, just be creative. I was going to say be realistic, but no. We were afforded such an endless string of opportunities on Chestersberg, which we couldn't have made the film without. I mean, we made the film total. I think the budget's been a little over £14,000, which is, to me, quite a lot of money. But in the scale of making a film, that's nothing. That's like half a person's wage for a week, probably, on an actual full-scale feature. But every time we had an idea, we want to do a scene where someone's on the River Ouse dropping body parts over, like in Dexter. We want to do a kind of Shining tribute in a cornfield, a corn maze running around like crazy. We want to have an ice cream van flying around the streets of York in a kind of really low budget, law-abiding car chase, which is in the film. We just never really hit any kind of hard no on it. We just went to people and said, this is what we want to do. And I think the energy and the excitement that we have for it kind of brings them in as well. Making the phone call, just being upfront and saying, we're doing this thing, we don't have much, but what we have is yours. I did a lot of bartering with the film. Okay. So for me, on a low budget film where we set, because we did set out initially to pay everybody, we had a budget that would have paid everyone. We didn't hit that with our first Indiegogo that we did. And I got to put I said, I can either go away and I can spend the next year trying to get this number, or we can just go for it now. And I said, just message me, email me individually, just let me know your honest thoughts. And 100% of the people involved said, no, we're doing it. It's happening. And I was just like, wow, okay. They just kind of took the idea and they'd read the script and they were like, no, I can't wait a year to do this. I want to do it now. And we're like, okay, so we did it. And ensuring that people were fed, making sure that nobody spent money on petrol. The way we wrote the script, with it being an ensemble cast, none of the actors were like, you need to give me 2 weeks of your time. It was like, I need you for 2 days here. Then the next week I need you for half an afternoon, things like that. We kind of that's the way we put the script together in that way. But the most important thing was the food. I think it's always the food. An army marches on its stomach.
Keep people happy.
Exactly, yeah. And we were catered. We had Sam from 1331 on Grape Lane in York. There's a little plug there. That's fine. He catered the film for us.
Cool.
We'd have 20, 30 people on set, and he would come out. We go send a runner to pick him up, and he would bring the food. And in return, I gave him the skills that I had. I shot a little video for a wedding fair that he did, and I gave him that footage, and he cut it together himself. And he was more than happy to kind of go back to the bartering system, which to me was great because that's something I can give to him.
Yeah, definitely.
And in return, I can't feed 30 people.
So what's the outline of the film?
So it started off, we made a web pilot actually for Dailymotion and Rain Dance Web Festival. I want to say 3 years ago, maybe it was 2 years ago. I've lost track of time because all I've been doing is making this film for the last few years. They did a competition for the web pilot. You would make a 5-minute pilot, and it had certain little beats it had to hit, and then it got judged by some people, and they would then decide who won. And we entered the first year with a pilot called Last Girl Standing, which came second, and then we did it again with a short called The Book Club, and we came first. But then Dailymotion sort of lost interest in narrative stuff. They said, the guy that ran it went off to do something else. And we said, do you want us to carry on with the project? And they said, no, it's fine. I said, do you want the money back? Because we've kind of spent it on new camera equipment. And they were like, no, you won, you keep it. Well, okay, great. And we just liked the idea, so we decided to turn it into a feature film. The premise of it is, in a nutshell, a man manages to secede his village from the United Kingdom, thus breaking away from all laws and societal restrictions that exist. And the first thing he decides to do is to make murder not just legal, but a kind of national pastime. Okay. And then they have like a monthly application process where people can say, I really want to live here, because he's through choices and decisions he's made, he's become very wealthy. Okay. And he's got these lovely houses and lovely bits of land. And if you can prove your worth to the village, you can come and live here. So we made the decision to shoot it in a kind of documentary style, which immediately makes life a lot easier. Like, it looks quite cinematic, but we're allowed a certain amount of concessions, let's say, because the style is very forgiving. If you're trying to shoot it fully narrative, you've got to really, really take your time and light it properly, tracks and jibs, and with it being handheld, it allowed us to move very quickly. Yeah, and that's set up within the story. A camera crew is allowed 6 months inside of the village, contractually agreed that they will not be murdered by anybody, and it's just about how it all falls apart, really. Like, obviously, if this actually did happen, it just wouldn't survive, and as such, it just all falls apart, and we get to kind of enjoy that ride of it all just crumbling around and ending in a particularly violent manner. Yeah,
sounds fun.
I'm enjoying. We're in the editing process now. We've got one more. I think we're Sunday the 3rd of June. We've got one more shoot to do. So maybe when this goes out, we've finished. We're free, and I'll be editing it for the next few months.
Is there going to be a premiere?
Yes, yeah, there will. So the film a lot of the money was raised through crowdfunding. So we're doing a premiere at Everyman, and I think initially we said around August. But we're going to knock it back slightly because Dave, who does all the post-production on the audio side of things, we're in a queue now. A film called Book of Monsters, Stuart Spark, which ran Kickstart the same. They're a bit ahead of us, and it was basically a bit of a race to see who got to Dave first, and Sparky won, which is fair enough. Okay. So I'm parked neatly behind Sparky now. Once Book of Monsters is finished, Dave will start on Chestersberg, which is good because it's allowed me like an extra 2 or 3 months in the edit just to make sure that I absolutely nail it as well, which is I'm quite grateful for, to be honest. So
if we look at York and the York kind of filmmaking scene, what's your opinion on that? What do you think people are doing well? What do you think could be better?
There's a great vibe of collaboration. Myself and Sparky are making horror films. Sparky's on his second feature. This is my first. We're constantly talking to each other about how things are going, what are we up to, dressing each other's war wounds as well. Kind of after if you've done like a very long hard weekend, it's nice to have somebody else who's running parallel with you. You can kind of compare war stories and yeah. The city is open. There are so many people here that want to make things. They want to get stuck in, get behind the camera. They want to be involved in creating artistic, production design, costume, hair, makeup, special effects. When you're doing something like this, it's not necessarily I'll come and do some work on like a corporate gig or something. When you're doing something like this, I think it kind of piques people's interest a bit. You say, we're going to do this today. People are like, hang on, you're doing what? And that's cool. And I feel like we're like the little city that won't say no as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there saying no, you can't make films unless you're in London, and you can't make films unless you've got £500,000 in the bank. York is very much it's good at putting people together and just making things happen. And there is constantly so much happening, not just in film, in all like avenues of creativity, art, dance, music, literature. Wherever you look, something's happening. That's incredible.
Yeah. So if you look at the kind of the wider creative community, not just film, is there anything going on that's, really interesting you at the moment? Could be music, could be art, could be anything.
I think the problem with filmmaking is at the level that we're working at, you get blinkers on and you have to be so focused on what you're doing that I am constantly surprised when I kind of stick my head up out of the ground and look around and I go, oh wow, all these things are happening. My office is around the corner from Spark, York, which is, that was crazy to watch that go up next to me and now it's open. What a vibe that place has. And there's all the creative outlets that are there. There are artists doing installations. There's theatre happening constantly for someone that I every now and again I will get the sort of endless itch to go back and do a bit of acting, and I prefer doing theatre acting than film. I don't really like being on camera that much. I feel quite uncomfortable, which is stupid because the first thing we made was the web series I Am Tim, which I was in all of it, but I wasn't actually meant to be. The guy who was going to play Tim, he got married. I think he was married, but then his wife found out there was a baby on the way, and he sort of went, I can't play anymore, is what he kind of said. Okay, so I just sort of quickly jump in. But no, I mean, I'm much happier behind camera, but I love being on stage. And anytime I feel that itch, I can just send out a thing on Facebook, what's happening, and immediately it's like, oh well, there's this. Like, wow, unbelievable, crazy, and I can be in something by the end of the week, which is great. I'm performing at the Rose Theatre. The big Shakespeare place is opening. Yeah, I'm working there over summer as an actor, and that's cool. Nice. Yeah, it's kind of just sort of fell into my lap a little bit, and that's I've been following the progress of it. I never actually dreamed for a second I'd be doing anything there. So that's it's just it's crazy.
Yeah, it's great. You can juggle those two different things.
Sometimes, sometimes lots of coffee. I mean, I haven't done anything in a long time. While we've been making Chestersberg, it's been my only focus. Sure. It's been like the only thing that I've been looking at. Yeah.
Well, it's good that you can do that, because I mean, sometimes I'll be quite deep in a particular project, and I always get this thing like, I need to be doing something else. There's always that voice in your head that like, maybe this isn't going to work out. Maybe you should try something else.
Oh, you still do.
I fight against that.
Yeah, I still do. I mean, I think Michael, who's the DOP on Chestersberg, and Jack, who did this, he's the sound recorders that I work with on everything. We constantly end up talking about, what we're doing next. What are we doing meanwhile? As soon as I finished editing Chestersberg, like we know what's next for us, and I'm already writing. We've got a 20-minute short film that we're going to shoot around Halloween this year, and we're doing a series of short horrors that are like 1 to 2 minutes long, but they're designed they're for web, because we have a YouTube channel that's got like about 2,000 subscribers on there, and the guy who's our channel manager, who works for a company called Buzz My Videos, he's constantly like, hey, there's 2,000 people here, and I'm like, yeah, but it's not that many, and he's like, yeah, but it's at the point where he said it could expand so quickly, and he's like, so just do something. If it's once a month, just put something out there. So we're like, okay. But yeah, when you're stood on set and there's so much going on, you think, I just got to. That's one thing I've been really bad at. I'm really bad at just focusing on one thing. I get excited about new projects. That's my problem. And I'm getting better at getting all the way through them, but I'm still working on stuff like, so the I Am Tim Indiegogo ended 4 years ago, and we're just now squaring up, because it took us so long to get the series finished, because it was so massive.
So if people want to see that, where should they go? If they want to see I Am Tim?
Oh, yeah, our website, our YouTube channel is basically where most of the things we've made so far are up there. And if you search for RedShirt Films on YouTube, then it will give you the channel. And I think we have 3 web series up there.
So if people want to get in touch, ask you questions, filmmaking tips, can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're always open to, if people want to come and get involved on set and stuff. If they want to, even if they're people that are starting out as editors and we have a little studio, I'm more than happy to come and, people can have a cup of coffee and have a chat and just see what the process is. It's mostly because I've got a really nice office as well, and I always like showing it off to people. They always go like, oh, I'm like, yeah, that's all right. This is such a great little find that we have. The best bet is I'm probably the most active on Twitter and Instagram, and it's RedShirt Jamie on both of those. Cool. It's mostly photos of my cats and film sets and roller derby. My girlfriend plays roller derby.
Oh, nice.
So it's mostly those 3 things, which are 3 of my favourite things in the world. So cool. I just share them with people all the time.
Cool, nice one. Well, thanks for being on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been great.